Hey, this is Kirk, the bariatric carnivore. Well, here's why if you are taking vitamin D2 as a supplement or it's been prescribed, you probably need to stop. And I know that sounds alarmist, but it makes sense when you read the article in Nutrition Reviews from Oxford University. And what they looked at was they were looking at vitamin D2 supplementers, and they found out that it decreased your vitamin D3 levels. D3 is what's crucial for your overall immune health. So people that were taking the D2 were actually having a weaker immune system. They thought that they were actually improving their vitamin D levels by taking it, but they're actually lowering their D3 levels, which is the crucial one, especially for your immune health. Now, why would people be taking vitamin D2? Well, vegans prefer it because they can always get that from a non-meat source. That's a vegetable form of vitamin D. And doctors like it, frankly, because they can pull out their prescription pad and think that they're doing something good for their patients by prescribing that, because D2 at the higher doses that you take once a week is a prescription medication. And there's this bias in medicine that if it's prescription, it's got to be better. And when somebody goes to the supplement store, you don't know exactly what you're getting, which is kind of true. But D3 is so ubiquitous and so cheap, and something that people just don't mess around with, because it's why. It's one of those cheap and easy vitamins to manufacture, and because of that, it's not really studied enough. D3 acts almost like a hormone in your body. It affects nearly every system of your body. It is vital for your immune system, bone health, muscle building, your sexual health. Everything really kind of depends on that hormonal system with D3 in it. And most people in the world really have low vitamin D levels. The reason why I've got kind of interested in it was during COVID. It turns out that the first place to get hit by it really hard was in northern Italy, where people have remarkably low vitamin D levels as a group, but the people that were ending up in the hospital had really low levels of vitamin D in their blood. And when they tested them, they were the equivalent of about a level 15 here in the United States. And the people, they were almost all 15 and below that ended up in the hospital. So a group in Spain decided, okay, if the people with low vitamin D are having the problem, what would happen if we gave a form of vitamin D that is instantly absorbed into the body? There's, vitamin D, when you take it as a D3 as a supplement, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for it to be able to get into your bloodstream and to change into a usable type that your immune system can use. But there's a prescription version that automatically starts to affect your immune system. So that's what they did. They took two groups of patients. Half of them, they gave the vitamin D form that was immediately absorbed, and half of them they didn't, of COVID patients. And the COVID patients that got the D3, none of them went to the ICU. None of them, matter of fact, all of them got better, all of them went home. The group that did not get the vitamin D3, a large number of them ended up in the ICU, many on respirators, many of them died. None of the people that got the vitamin D died. So that study, unfortunately, was not replicated or expanded, because at that time they were trying to start rolling out the vaccine. And the way the rules are on vaccines with an emergency use authorization is if there's any treatment available aside from the vaccine, then they could not get the emergency use authorization. And there's a lot of money apparently wrapped up in that stuff, and a lot of governments that wanted to roll out the vaccines. So as a result, it was never followed up and tested. But the signal, I thought, was particularly strong. So that got me very interested in vitamin D, and I've been studying it for quite a while. And I realized that having an optimal level of at least 50 or above is anywhere from 50 to 100, as far as your blood level is concerned, is considered optimal for your overall immune health. And it's one of these things that you get it from sunlight and from your food. If you're eating a meat-based diet, not eating a bunch of ultra-processed stuff, it also seems to be related to your overall metabolic health. So the more metabolically healthy you are, the more sunlight you're getting, and good quality meat seems to keep you in the optimal level of vitamin D. Um, so that is kind of crucial to this whole thing. Um, Supplementation, particularly during the winter, to me makes a lot of sense. When you are supplementing with vitamin D3, uh, many people do highly recommend you take vitamin K2, not vitamin K, but vitamin K2 along with it. Vitamin K is separate, that has some blood thinning issues, so please don't confuse the two. But K2 does not affect anybody that's on warfarin or any type of blood thinner. And the reason why they think they work synergistically very well together is vitamin D3 alone has a tendency to increase the amount of calcium in the arteries. K2 tends to pull it out and put it into the bones. So there's the research on that isn't like utterly fantastic, that it's really clear. These supplements are so inexpensive and cheap that they're just not really well studied. The only study that I really know of about it was called the Rotterdam study, and that sent out a really good signal that K2 and D3 really do work synergistically well together, but there wasn't a lot of follow-up with that either. So I can't say definitively that that's the case, but if you look it up, you'll see that they seem to work together extremely well. And that's helpful because you do want to get the calcium out of the arteries. So to me, that makes buku sense. And I'm going to take them separately every single day just to keep my vitamin D level optimal. Now, how do you know if your vitamin D level is at an optimal level? Well, you can ask your doctor to test your vitamin D level when you get your annual blood work. If they won't, you can order it yourself online. Blood work is not something, it does not require a doctor's prescription. So for about $25, you can test it, get it tested yourself. You order it online, go over to the lab, get your blood drawn, and next day they send you back a little thing that tells you exactly where it is, and you want it between 50 and 100 at an optimal level according to everything that I've read. Um, and if you're below 25, you're probably at real risk. Unfortunately, most people have low vitamin D levels and they don't even know it. And that's why, when cold and flu season comes along, we're at real risk. I mean, when is cold and flu season? It's during the winter months when we cannot get enough sun. Um, we're stuck inside during the summer, because it's hot and we want to stay in the air conditioning. You would think it's the same conditions as winter when we're all stuck inside because it's cold out there. But the difference is during the summer, we get more sun and we have higher vitamin D levels. Our immune system is higher. People do not have cold and flus much during the summer months when there's lots of sun. But during because it's a fat soluble vitamin, we often will bank a lot of vitamin D during the summer months if we get lots of good sun exposure, and that takes us through the winter relatively easily. But for most people, they need to supplement, particularly during the winter months, to make sure that their vitamin D levels do not drop below a certain level that causes their immune system to be at particular risk. So that's kind of my vitamin D update. If you're taking vitamin D2, please talk to your doctor, take a look, bring them a copy of the article and show it to them. I'll put a link to that article in the show notes that explains why taking vitamin D2 will lower your immune system by taking out your vitamin D3. Many doctors just don't realize the difference between the D2, D3. They think the prescription's better. Vegans like it because they can get it from plant sources, but there's D3 versions that use lanolin from sheep that doesn't require them to eat a critter. So, there's alternative versions of it, even for people that are ethical vegans. So the options out there. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I try to put out a couple messages each week. If you like this message, please hit like and subscribe. Join this channel of other like-minded folks. Look, remember, in this fight for our health, we are all alone, but we can all be alone in this together. And when we share information like this, it really helps keep everybody's health going. I will talk to you again soon.